really, really happy to announce that that we are just signed an ambassadorship program with Schedulicity. Schedulicity is a scheduling app, and they've been kind enough to help us out this next year.
Yeah, we met them in LA when we did the Salon Digital Summit, and they really believed in what we were doing and how we were doing it, and so they wanted to know how they can partner up with us to even reach more listeners and give what we give.
That's right. So with our partnership with Schedulicity, we will be able to reach more hairdressers, and we'll be able to bring a lot more content and get to a lot more hair shows. So hopefully we can see you guys out there in the hair shows when we're there visiting. Yeah,
and they're going to give us some business tips throughout the podcast as well. And I'm so excited that, we're partnering up with people that believe in the same things we believe in.
Yeah, no doubt. That's pretty exciting. So anyway, Schedulicity, once again, big shout out to you, and
thank you for joining
your day off. Silly. Hey, welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and of course I'm sitting with my best bud, Tony. Tony, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, man. Today is it's going to be a great day for the podcast.
It's a very special day for us because this guy, he actually legitimized us a little bit, right?
Not only that, but he is like after our own heart.
Yeah, completely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like the way we connected with this guy and what he's doing in our industry. You know what I mean? It was just like, wow. It's like this marriage.
Yeah.
In our industry. It's beautiful.
It's like when we'll get into it, but we're talking to Jerry Nettuno from Schedulicity today. And when we first met him, when we started this podcast, we had these ideas about how we could keep giving back to our industry and how we could give back to the people of our industry, not just the industry, but the actual people that are working behind the chair all the time. And, the more and more that we started to talk to Jerry, the more that we were taught that's exactly what Schedulicity is doing as well, and how they're really just giving back to the people that work behind the chair.
Yep.
Not just the individuals in the industry. And we're going to get into some stuff. He's going to announce some stuff. I'm really excited, man.
Yeah. So that's enough about me and you. Let's bring this can on.
Let's do it. So, Mr. Jerry Nettuno from Schedulicity, welcome to your day off.
Hello. You don't know how excited I am to be on this famous podcast.
Oh, dude, you heard us just stutter through the whole thing. You have no idea how excited we are. This is so cool.
Yeah, we huge fans. I don't even think that's enough to say, but huge fans of you, your whole team. We've been to Bozeman. We met all those guys, and truly, they are 100% rock stars.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, he just a little insider. Like Schedulicity, they name their customer service reps rock stars, but that's BS because they're all rock stars. Everybody there is amazing.
Everybody we ran into, we talked to through text, phone calls, emails. The customer service is unbelievable. But anyways, Jerry, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
So long story. I grew up in Florida. I was born in Gainesville, Florida. And I was raised, my family moved to Miami when I was just a young kid, and I lived there all the way through high school. And then from after that, I lived in Central Florida in the Orlando area for about 12 years before I moved out to Montana.
What in the world took you to Bozeman?
That's a great story, and pretty simple. I grew up in Florida, and my father's born and raised in Florida, right on the beach. You could almost throw a rock onto the beach from this little white ran shack little house that he grew up in. And he's definitely a Florida guy to this day. If it drops below 60 degrees, he doesn't understand how people can live in a place like that. But my mother, however, was from Wyoming.
Wow.
And he was born and raised in a tiny little town at the base of the Bighorns called Buffalo, Wyoming, and where it's still snowing, like in Bozeman. And anyway, they met at the Air Force Academy and had 4 boys. And so in answer to your question, I was exposed as a young boy to Montana and Wyoming and the mountains and cowboys and cattle and horses. And it was just kind of, I'm a firm believer. I talked quite a bit about this over the weekend when I was with the Hair Love peeps. And I'm a firm believer that, people are always drawn to what they didn't have, right? Like I grew up on the beach. I had, we went to the beach like in 5 minutes. We, when I was in high school, that's what we did every day. My buddies and I would skip school and go fishing and catch lobster. I had boats all of my life. But I don't know, the first time that I ever went to the mountains in Montana and Wyoming, and I saw those majestic mountains with snow on top and just horses and elk and all the stuff. It was just like, I don't know, there was a calling for me. And for years, I had that feeling. And then I hit a certain point in my life where I was like, I had some changes going on, and I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do something, now is the time to do it. And I was trying to think about where to go. And my very best friend, his name is Brian Bennett. You guys would love him. He's just a remarkably beautiful man, and my very best friend since literally the 5th grade. You guys' story reminds me a lot of Brian and I's story, and I've mentioned that to you in the past. We've known each other all of our lives. Anyway, after school, he went into the Air Force, and he got stationed in Montana, in a place called Great Falls, which is way up in the middle of the state. And without the Air Force base, I don't know what would even be there. I visited him back then when he was in the Air Force. And then when he got out of the Air Force, he took his money, his GI money for school, and he went to Bozeman because that's where Montana State University is. And then I started coming out to visit him in Bozeman when we were, in that age, college-ish, And that just did me over. I went to Bozeman for the first time in 1986, 1985, and I just fell in love with the whole thing.
I like the story when not you didn't say this, but in my head, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you're in Florida, you're wrestling alligators, and, that didn't become enough. So you went to Bozeman to wrestle the grizzlies. And
as I said, I believe that you are always, and I'll give you the example of what I mean. So my daughters, I have 2 daughters, 20 and 21 years old, just amazing, talented, beautiful young women, but they're both born and raised in Bozeman, right? So they just know from stories that their dad was a Florida guy, wrestling alligators and fishing and all the things, right? And so when they were in middle school, like teenagers, for the very first time I took them to dad's, right? That was the first time I took them to dad's old stomping grounds. I was going to show them my school, my high school, the house, that I grew up in as a little boy. And it was so funny because both of my daughters are Montana girls, and we fly into Miami International Airport. I rented a convertible. So we're in Miami. They've never been in a convertible. So I rented a convertible. We get them there. I got 2 teenage daughters, like 18 bags, because we were going for like 5 days, and they're girls. And then I got the rent-a-car. And then as you're leaving the airport in Miami, you're on this exit ramp out of the airport, and it comes down like this. And it's lined with palm trees, and I'm with my 2 Montana daughters, and we're on the exit ramp out of the airport. My daughter Lauren's in the back seat, and she's looking up, and I can hear her say, "Dad, I'm moving here." And we weren't even out of the airport, but once again, they had never experienced that, the ocean and the palm tree. You know what I'm saying? So. I thought it was pretty funny. I had the opposite experience.
Right. They had the new Nettuno gene, so be visiting them in Florida one day.
There's no doubt about it,
right? So what made you think of Schedulicity? You're in Bozeman. What were you doing in Bozeman, first of all, and then how did Schedulicity come about?
Well, when my first foray, as you guys both know, I'm a musician. And I got the opportunity to, live a lot of people's dreams. I played with some of the country's most amazing acoustic musicians, and got to know and meet some of my heroes, from James Taylor and people like Alison Krauss and lots of people like that, all became friends of mine, and I got to record on nationally distributed albums, and I got to vote at the Grammys. And at a certain point in my life, it was really all that I wanted to do is play music and write music and all the things. But from a very young age, I was also bitten with the entrepreneurial bug. And even in high school, I had little businesses where I was, making pretty good money for a high school kid. I kind of was always drawn to business and being entrepreneurial. I kind of had that spirit. Only later did I realize that I think that whole creative side of the brain that you guys, these people in this industry share, is really, really beneficial for business. That's only recently has that been talked about. It was always thought that there was right brain and left brain, and if you had a creative brain, that you weren't good at business. And that's not true. I think if you look now at some of the top business people out there, they're very creative brained people. So I think that there's a lot of benefit there as well. But anyway, so I was kind of in that road, and I got to do some amazing things with music that I'll never forget the rest of my life. And when you guys get to the house, you'll get to see I have a recording studio at the house and instruments all over the house, and so I play quite a bit. But I definitely leaned towards business building, and I made the move to Bozeman, and I was doing consulting, and I was working with my brothers in a business that we created in the financial industry as financial advisors, and I was really just kind of thinking about my next big move when Schedulicity happened. And so, it was just kind of an interesting thing. Schedulicity was really born in an interesting way. I mean, it really started out of kind of selfish reasons that turned into something else, right? Because what happened was, I was kind of thinking about what the next things were, the next steps for me in my life. And I had met some people, and I'd started to learn a little bit about technology, because as you guys probably know and joke about me when I'm not in front of you, I'm definitely not. I'm not like the tech guys that you probably know. Not at all. I don't have a tech background. I'm probably, for a company that has achieved the kind of success that Schedulicity has, I mean, I certainly do not fit any of the mold of those tech CEOs that you read about. I didn't go to Harvard or Stanford, and I didn't even finish college. I was in the wrong place. You couldn't do anything like we're doing from Bozeman, Montana, because there wasn't talented people, and you couldn't find the capital and all the things. But basically, when I was living there, I was just kind of thinking the next thing, as I said, I'd met some people that had interested me in some of the technology that was happening. But personally, I had two daughters that I was, raising by myself for most of the time at the time, and that's not an easy thing to do. I've had a lot of challenges, but raising those girls took the life out of me. I always tease, I grew up in a family of 4 boys and an Italian family. So my parents tried so hard to have a little girl, and it just never happened. And all of my life, whenever I told people I was the oldest of 4 boys, they would always put their hand on my shoulder and say, "Oh, your poor mother." And only years later did I realize she had a walk in the park compared to having teenage daughters. Anyway, what would happen was, I would come home and I'd help my girls. I'd make dinner for them after school, and I would be, making dinner and helping them with their homework and all that stuff. And then 9 o'clock at night is when I'd finally sit down and pour a glass of wine, and that's when I'd look in the mirror and see that my hair was about this big.
Like a big afro.
I'd be like, "Oh shit, man, I need a haircut." Right? Or I need a massage, like really bad. I just hurt. And it was a pain in the butt because I couldn't do anything about it. What am I going to do? Call my hairstylist at 9:30 at night? So eventually, half the time I wouldn't do anything, and then the next morning I would completely forget about it because life hits me in the face again. And when you think about it, that means that somebody that was cutting somebody's hair didn't get a client because I couldn't do it when I was thinking about it. Now I already forgot about it. Or I would call and I'd leave a message, and then she'd call me back 2 days later, right? And then I'd be in a meeting, and then I'd call her back, but now I can't get her because she's behind the chair. And this would go on for 3 or 4 days. And then I'd finally get her on the phone, and that's when all the fun starts. Because then I'd be looking at my calendar. She's looking at some crazy scribbly book that you can't even read. And she's looking at her thing, and I'm saying, I know when I want to come, and she's telling me when she's got an opening. And, I'm thinking I want this time on late Friday, and she's thinking in her mind that, she wants to have a date that night, so she wants to leave early and get ready. And, anyway, at the same time this is happening, I'm realizing in 5 minutes online, I could get flights to Paris, hotel rooms, a rental car, and a restaurant reservation.
Sure.
In 5 minutes. And I thought to myself, there has to be an easier way to do this. There has to be an easier way to do
Jerry,
this.
so hold on. So your initial thought, was it like, I'm going to find a way to do this? Or was your initial thought like, I'm going to create a company to do this? Like, what was the very first thought? What was that? Bring us into that.
Well, the first thought was, I got to find a better way to do this,
right.
which immediately led to how to build a company to do this. Yeah.
So that's pretty quick then. Like, you're like, okay, so how are we going to figure this out?
Yeah, exactly. It made sense to me that there was an opportunity there, because I'm thinking, okay, if this is what I'm going through, well, this has to be going on 50 million. I mean, think for 1 minute about this, right? So Schedulicity right now on our platform, we're scheduling 100, 110, 120, 130,000 appointments every 24 hours.
Wow.
Right? So that means that there's probably 50 million appointments, classes that are booked every day, right? And so I thought to myself, wow, if I'm having this problem, everybody's having this problem.
What year is this?
Right? This is 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when because we did three years of work before we even launched Schedulicity, because we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Right.
And so, but getting back to that, so when you think about it, it's really, really, really crazy. And I'll tell you some incredible statistics here in a minute, but essentially that's how it happened. I started, and I started to think about, who I would need around the table to solve this problem. And that led to hiring a couple engineers. And of course there was problems because, well, first of all, back in those days, there was no engineers where I lived. There was only a couple of companies out there that were tech companies that before Schedulicity. What's crazy is now Bozeman is in national news as the Silicon, prairie, and there's tech startups all over town, some really fantastic ones. And literally there's been articles in Fast Company, Forbes about Bozeman and their tech scene. But we were pioneers in that world. There was only a couple at the time. And so the bad news is, a lot of the type of skill sets that I needed to build the company didn't exist there. So the first few I had to literally find in Colorado and relocate them to Montana. And it's crazy because, hell, there's probably 100 software engineers in our building now. But I don't know if there was that many in Bozeman at the time.
And all of Montana at the time. They were
yeah, exactly. And so anyway, I really started to think about, again, how we would do it. And the first thing was, since I'm not a tech guy, I'm going to need some strong tech people. A lot of things were happening in technology. The biggest one was, the iPhone came out and really changed the world as we know it. But it was very young in that cycle, and most people didn't have one. Right now, if I'm standing at an event like I was this weekend with Elizabeth and all the Hair Love Tribe, if I asked everybody in the audience to raise their hand that had a smartphone, there's nobody that doesn't have one. But when I launched Schedulicity, maybe 1 out of 10 of those people had one.
So initially, it was a computer based or website based program.
Yeah, it was web based back when web based was a brand new thing. I mean, we literally created a technology in the very beginning where you could click a, a key on your keyboard and pop open a cash register, which had never been done before. Problem was we were way too early in, and I died, as I say, a half a dozen Game of Thrones type deaths because we were kind of early, right? Like we had an idea that I thought would change the world, but a lot of the technology and understanding that is in place today was not there.
Right.
And so we had a lot of struggles. I mentioned this weekend that we'll get into some of the numbers here with Schedulicity in a little while, but it wasn't always what it is today. We had, like in every business, a lot of challenges. I told the people this weekend that another reason that I love this community, this whole hair community, and why I chose to be such a big part of it is I'm so deeply drawn to people like you, because I'm an artist at heart, and you guys are artists, right? Your listeners, all the people that we're talking about are artists. But the other thing is you're entrepreneurs, right? You're starting your own business.
Sure.
And I have unimaginable respect for anyone who builds their own business. I don't care whether it's a tech company like Schedulicity or a shoe store or your own salon suite. It takes incredible dedication. It's a huge challenge. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress anytime you're building a business. And so, another reason why this whole industry was so attractive to me is because it has my two favorite things all rolled up into one. Creative people who are not afraid to get out there and forge something on their own.
Wow.
Love that.
Yeah. All right. So that was 12, 14, 15 years ago. At least the thought of it. And now we fast forward to today. And we met Jerry in last November.
Yeah. At first weekend of November in LA, right?
Yeah. At the Modern Salon Digital Summit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He was there. We were there. We did a live podcast on stage for them. And it's funny. We met Jerry and Jerry's like, hey, I'd like to talk to you guys. Like, we would love to speak with you as well. And we just kept missing each other. Right.
I know.
And he's like, I really want to get together with you guys. I'll let Jerry tell the story, but we, outside of the day that we spoke, we did a bunch of live podcasts outside of the main room. And, we had people watching us, and we didn't really realize Jerry was kind of watching us, but go ahead, Jerry. I mean, that was really the beginning of our relationship.
Yeah. So that event was a life changer for me, and Schedulicity, and in a lot of ways. Modern Salon reached out to me about speaking at that conference, and I told Steve Reese that I would, and then he wanted some time with me as well. So when I originally got there in LA and got kind of settled in, Steve came up to me and he said, well, thank you so much for coming, Jerry, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do this weekend? And I said, well, you know what, Steve, I would really love, while I'm here, it would be really great if I could leave here and before I leave, I want to meet some people who are making a difference, right? I want to meet some people who are creating change, and who are helping and empowering, the industry. And so he said, okay, cool. There's people here. And I don't remember whether it was like right then you guys were like sauntering across the lot. But he's like, hey, look at those guys, and then he told me they got this podcast. It started like a few months ago and it's on fire. And I said, well, tell me about it. And they said, well, they're really touching people's hearts, and they have all these really amazing people on there, but it's not really, necessarily about, here's how you do this color, it's more about here's our lives, and here's what our challenges are, and let's talk about how we share that with other people that are with, that we're all in this together. And so Yeah, and then I saw you guys, and I walked up to you and introduced myself, and I said, "Hey, let's get together before, the weekend is over," because I wanted to talk to you. And as you mentioned, that never happened. But what did happen is I did my big talk in the big room in there. And when I walked out of that room after my presentation, you guys were out in the common area, set up, doing the podcast. And I think it was Philip Wolf that you were doing the podcast with, who I'd never met either. And there was a mob surrounding you, like 10 deep, and I squeezed my way in, and I stood there and I listened to that podcast, and I got so sucked in that I couldn't leave. It was real and genuine and moving. Philip was emotional, and everybody was crying, and then was crying, which is a curse from my mother. And but I realized right at that moment, it was I had kind of a defining moment when I realized you guys were doing something different, something special, and something that if you kept at it and didn't give up, had the ability to affect thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, potentially. And so so that was our first date.
So I guess, I mean, that weekend was obviously life changing for us as well. I mean, before we went there, Tony and I, we had long debates whether we were going to go, because honestly, we had to pay our way there, and it was a really expensive weekend for us. And we're like, what's the ROI on this? And I mean, we had no idea how great of a weekend that it ended up being. Not only did we get to meet Jerry, but we got in a couple of podcasts that we were trying to get with, like Ricky and Philip and all those, and enough name dropping there. But it was definitely life changing for us. We connected with a lot of people. Again, with you and a bunch of people, that are influencers in our industry. So it was really great. So to finish up that story and how Jerry said that we didn't meet, but when we did meet, it was a few days later. He actually called us. We had exchanged phone numbers, and he called us, and we had a phone call with him. And I don't know if I've told this on the podcast before, but we had an hour-long meeting with Jerry on Zoom, and then the very next hour we had Presley on, because we were organizing Presley Poe and Friends, and so Presley comes on the podcast, and we're kind of vetting like Schedulicity and Jerry and all that. We're like, this sounds all great and stuff, but what's the real about this? Because we also make the joke a lot of times that the only fault that we could find in Jerry was that he was such a nice guy, and that's no reason to like.
Yeah, we're like, he can't be that.
He can't be that nice, right? The curse from his mom, as he said. So we asked Presley. We're like, Presley, have you ever heard of this company called Schedulicity? And she immediately was like, oh my God, I've been using Schedulicity for 5 years. And not only that, but it changed my business. And it was like the greatest like endorsement for a product ever. And then she followed that up with like, not only that, but it's the greatest customer service ever. And, just as a general rule, like you can always tell how great a company is by their customer service, because I think that I don't know if necessarily, again, talk about ROI. I'm not sure that companies understand what that ROI is when it comes to customer service, because almost every company you deal with today, there's some let's say customer service challenges, right? So, and there's none of that at Schedulicity, or certainly we haven't experienced that, and neither had Presley. And from that moment on, we were like, all right, well, Jerry's our guy, man. So we reached back out to him, and then, a couple weeks later, we're in Bozeman, Montana, and, we hammered out, what a relationship between Hairdustry and Your Day Off and Schedulicity would look like. And anyways, I guess I've been rambling on enough, but that's kind of the story and why and what.
But at the end of the day, Jerry is that nice. Schedulicity is all that.
Yep.
And the customer service is outstanding.
It's amazing.
And so,
let's go.
Let's get into the stuff that impacts our industry. And what is Schedulicity doing in our industry that is creating this huge buzz?
Well, I think that, there's a couple of things. Number one, the single reason why we are here and we've built the success that we have at Schedulicity is all started with going way back to the beginning, an epiphany that I had. And the epiphany was when I started to dig into, when we really, I hired some great people. Michael was one of those people. My philosophy at that time was, I'm going to find great people to get involved. Michael, when I met him, was a brilliant guy, but he was the bartender of the bar that he built. When that's how we became
That has
friends.
the greatest impossible burger ever. But,
Exactly.
Yeah. And he just, in speaking about him, in speaking together at the bar, we became really good friends. But I realized what a special human being he was, and I thought to myself, okay, if I do this, he's going to be a part of it somehow. And that's kind of how I started the company. I learned a long time ago from one of my mentors that if you surround yourself with incredible people, you build incredible things. And so I kind of do. That's kind of the way I've always approached my life. I didn't think about, I need some guy that has this skill set and went to that college. No, it was, I'm going to surround myself with incredible people who inspire me. And then you're going to build incredible things that inspire people. And that's kind of the way I think about it. So I was really lucky enough to find some of those people. And obviously with Michael came Jane and all the things. And then you speak so much about our customer support. And, we don't call it customer support, just so you know. It's called CX, and it means customer experience. Is what we call it, right? And the name of our people are rock stars, but we call it CX, which stands for customer experience, because it's really, how do we make the experience wonderful? And just like I tell people in the hair business, right? You have to remember, your greatest power is the experience that you create for one of your clients when they come and get in that chair. But remember, that experience starts before then, right? That experience starts when they can't make an appointment, or it takes 3 days of phone tag to make an appointment, or they can't find something that works with their schedule. And so it's the same thing with like our business, right? We can do everything we can with Schedulicity, the product, but really when somebody reaches out to us, that experience that they have oftentimes defines their thought of our company, right? So we've done a lot of things that have had big impact that I'm really proud of, but I think the thing that I'm the most proud of is Karin Corey and what she has done with our CX team. Karin is just an amazing woman who brings a smile to my face every single day. Her laugh literally lights up our entire company, and she is a brilliant and talented leader that has really turned our CX team into not just a part of our business, but probably one of the most powerful parts of our entire business. But basically what happened was, where this whole thing changed and where this whole entire concept of Schedulicity became what it is today was way back when I realized that my original thoughts about, it wasn't even called Schedulicity at that time, but the original thought of what I was trying to do, as I said, was born out of selfish reasons. But what happened was there was a turning point, an epiphany, because what I realized is when we got into the details, when we really rolled up our sleeves, got our hands dirty, and I literally had engineers sitting in a hair salon, sitting behind a hairstylist, trying to understand how the interactions went, how the communications worked with clients, how things were booked and scheduled, because there's a lot to it, right?
No doubt.
And people don't realize, until you try to do this, just the technical difficulty, right? Because, when I'm talking to my hairstylist on the phone and she's talking to me and she's looking at her book and I'm looking at my book and she's thinking one thing, she's not telling me, about this, that. And like I said, she wants to leave early to go have a date, or, she's going to go have lunch with friends. I don't see any of that. And to create an algorithm with technology that does that was unimaginably hard. It took years to do and tens of millions of dollars, and God only knows how much time. And that's the other thing that I'm proud of. Schedulicity invented this space There wasn't other companies out there. We did it. Now there's a lot of competitors out there. And, so a lot of times people ask me what makes us different. And, I could go on for 6 podcasts and I'm not going to do that. But I will tell you one thing. And the one thing is, besides the fact that I know that we care about that our people more than any company in any type of world, because we're such a part of this community. The other big thing is I don't see any company that ever really took the time to get their hands dirty, to really truly understand the challenges. But where this thing went off the rails and became what it is today is when I realized that the selfish problem that I was trying to fix, which was making it easier for me to make an appointment, I realized that my hairstylist, right? I realized that my problem paled in comparison to the challenge she had, right? Because she was trying to do that crazy thing that I mentioned with 350 people.
Right.
I never thought about that, right? She had no life. She was behind the chair for 10 hours and then 5 more hours on the phone, texting and calling and moving and erasing an appointment and putting it somewhere else. And not taking care of herself, right? Never eating, never having lunch. Now I hear the stories. I've got a barber in Bozeman that switched over to Schedulicity, and he told me he almost sold his whole barbershop because he couldn't even eat lunch. And now because of Schedulicity, he makes time for himself. And that's really what we tried to do was create something that, again, the epiphany was like a tidal wave when I realized my problem was nothing compared to what you face every day. And it was on that day. It was on that day that I dedicated this company to solve that problem and to make a product that was going to change people's lives in this industry by allowing them to be creative and be artists, but give them the tools to also be business people, right? And to take care of themselves, right? My barber, Brian Kirkland, that I was telling you about, he told me, and he even put a video out on Instagram about it. He said, "Hey, I was good at taking care of my business, great at taking care of my clients. I sucked at taking care of myself." And even at the Hair Love Retreat this week, I heard all these people talking, and it was all about all the personal things that they're going through because you work so hard taking care of everybody. The first person that you don't take care of is yourself. So we realized that early on, and we built a platform specifically designed to allow people in the hair industry because I've always said, man, this isn't business people, right? We're artists. We're all artists, right? And we chose this life because you love what you do. You're proud of your craft, right? And you're working hard. I see all these people traveling around, educating, all trying to be better and learn more about their craft, learn how to do more things, more exciting things, different colors, different cuts, all the things. And I wanted to create a product or a platform that would allow them to spend all of their time doing that and less of their time doing the things that they usually struggle with.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
that's when things started to go crazy. And flash forward, as you said, to what we have today. We've built an absolutely game-changing product for people to use. Everybody thinks, oh, it's online scheduling. And it is, but it's so much more than that. It's marketing and communications and all kinds of functionality that allows you to communicate with your customers and create loyalty with your customers and get new customers and take care of yourself. And we went from nothing, almost going out of business, God only knows how many times. And as I said, now we have 120, 130,000 appointments booked every 24 hours. And are you ready for the big thing?
Go.
Over 70% of those appointments are made after business hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I wake up and my phone is like, I get all these texts, like all the people who made appointments in the middle of the night, or, you know what I mean? After I put my phone away. And
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, think about what I just said, 120,000 appointments every single day And 70% of those are made after business hours, which means that if you're not giving your customers a means to do this, think about how it's affecting, your business. You're either not getting the business you could, or you're not having a life trying to handle it.
That's huge.
And so we set out to fix that. And I'm proud to say, I've been from one end of this country to the other. I've been in 3 states in 3 days. And everywhere I go, I meet people in this business that come up to me in tears and tell me how much of an impact Schedulicity has made. I told Elizabeth when I talked to her, I had a guy walk up to me and tell me that I saved his marriage. And I said, what? And he said, yeah. He said, listen, I haven't had a date with my wife in 12 years.
Wow.
Because when we were together, we weren't together. I said, what do you mean, dude? He said, listen, even if I got a date with my wife, all she was doing was sitting on her phone, texting and calling back all of her customers. And he said, now my wife and I have date night. And for the first time in 12 years, we have a date because she doesn't do any more of that.
Wow.
Schedulicity does all that for her. And I thought that was such a powerful statement. So yeah, I mean, we have, I think we have over 90,000 businesses. And the big thing is we now are very close to 25 million consumers out there using Schedulicity to schedule these types of services. And we're getting ready to launch some pretty national, amazing stuff. Maybe I'll share some of it with you.
Let's do it, man. What's the future of Schedulicity, and what are you guys up to?
I'm so excited about a bunch of this stuff. I don't know what he's going to be giving us, but yeah, there's some really cool stuff coming out. So what is Schedulicity coming up with the future?
Well, some of it I'd like to tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Don't do that. We like you. We said he was a nice guy.
Right. Yeah. That's the mob.
Well, but I'm also Italian.
Right.
So,
mob boss out.
Capiche?
Capiche. Gotcha. Don't tell me any of the stuff that you got to kill me on. So no, I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to know. It's not that important.
I'll say this: the future is unimaginably exciting for all of the Schedulicity people out there, and for Schedulicity itself. This summer, we're going to be launching some things that are so big, but that are literally game changers. Like, we are going to completely disrupt and change for the better the way that some basic things are done with in the hair business, right? And I'm really excited about it. What we're going to do is going to save ridiculous amounts of money for each and every single one of the people that out there using Schedulicity. Wow. It's going to be game changing. We're looking in June, so you'll be a part of helping us to announce it, but it's going to be exciting. In addition to that, all kinds of functionality coming. We're right now, we have one of the hottest, badassest engineering teams ever, and we're literally almost on a bi-weekly time frame releasing new super cool things that have a big impact on everybody. But yeah, the summer, some very big things, announcements. So keep an eye out, and we'll be talking more about that.
Yeah, that's exciting.
But let's get back to what everybody's talking about right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, explain to us Schedulicity Cares.
I would love to explain to you about Schedulicity Cares. So, it's one of these things where, like I said, one of my mentors talked about these things. Mark Twain once said that if you're passionate about something and you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Right. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm a very passionate person about everything that I do. I'm passionate about my friends. I'm passionate about my work, my business, my relationships, my family. And I think the reason that I've, achieved whatever it is I've achieved in life, it's because, I try to do things that I'm passionate about. If I'm not passionate about it, I'm not very good. And, I talked a little bit about that this weekend. People that are in this business because they're passionate about it. You have an unbelievable gift in this world that we call the hair business, right? Because you guys have the ability every day, day in and day out, to have people come in and talk to you and leave feeling beautiful about themselves, right? And what a gift, what a powerful thing that is, that not everybody has, right? Michael and I used to talk all the time about the fact that we love the relationship that you have with somebody that's doing your hair, right? Is such, there's nothing like it, right? I can walk down Main Street in Bozeman, I can buy things, go in stores. It's not the same, right? It's business, but it's not the same. The relationship that you have with your customers are different. The girl who cuts my hair, Charlene, I mean, she knows, if I'm single, if I'm dating, if what my kids' names are, what they're doing. She knows the name of my cat, right? I mean, she's my friend, right? I know about her family, about her business. We have long, interesting and great conversations about our lives. This is a much different type of relationship that you have with your clients that most businesses don't have, right? And Schedulicity wants to be like that. We've always wanted to have that kind of a relationship with the people that we do. We love the people that we built Schedulicity for, right? And regardless of what happens to Schedulicity, I want our success in the end to be measured by the impact that we have on people. Mm-hmm. One of my mentors told me once that you can't chase the money. Michael Wilson always says, you can't chase the money, meaning that if money's what you're after first, you won't find it. You'll be chasing your tail for the rest of your life. However, right, if you do it the right way, right, we've built a business where we want our success to be based on the impact that we have on people's lives. If you do that, if you're successful at that, all the other stuff comes automatically, right? It's much different. Right? If you go after that, you can't get it. If you do things the right way, if you build your business the right way, all of those things that you want will come organically. And that's what's happened, for Schedulicity. And so we've often thought about, we've always done as much as we can possibly do to help people. But we decided this year, because of some of the success that we're having and some of the notoriety that we're getting and some of the big things that you're about to see that are going to be happening, we thought, how can we get out there and how can we take that to the next level? Like, how can we change give them an opportunity to do something they never dreamed that they could do? And so basically from those conversations were born what we call the Schedulicity Cares movement. Schedulicity Cares. And basically what that is every single month, we're going to be giving away $5,000 to a barbershop or a barber, $5,000 to a hair salon or a hair, and $5,000 to a health and wellness and beauty person every single month. So we're going to be giving away $15,000 cash every month in the form of a grant, right? And this is very important because all you have to do to qualify to win this grant, the Schedulicity Cares grant, is you have to put up a video, hashtag Schedulicity Cares, or a post that explains what you would do with your business if you got a $5,000 grant from Schedulicity, right? Because we don't want to give somebody $5,000 so they can go to Australia for 3 months on a trip.
Right.
I want to give $5,000 to somebody who had a dream to open their own salon, but had never had the capital to do it. Or they had a dream to add 3 more chairs to their shop, but they couldn't. Or they had a dream to go to the Hair Love Retreat, but never had the money to do it, right? So we thought, how could we come up with a way to be able to do that? So essentially, starting last month, we're going to give away $15,000 a month. And if you go on Instagram, Schedulicity Cares, you can see we already have all these just beautiful, amazing, talented people that are putting up videos. And you guys know that we gave the very first Schedulicity Cares award away at the Presley Poe and Friends event in Maryland last month. And it was amazing. We gave it to an amazing young woman named Amanda Lieberger, who's down in Dallas, and she's in the middle of trying to open her her dream salon and pick up and move from the place she's lived all of her life and start over in a new city. And guess what? We were able to give her $5,000 to help make that happen.
Wow.
And it's that kind of thing that just makes, it makes us feel wonderful to be able to help people because, as you've mentioned, and as I hear all the time, maybe the thing I'm the most proud of as the leader of this company and founder of this company is that, it's not just me, right? I have 80 people at this company that are driven and passionate about helping people and helping the people that we do this for. And so Schedulicity Cares was born as an extension to that.
That's awesome, Jer. I mean, first and foremost, I just thank you very much. I mean, it was a great honor for you guys to attend Presley Poe and Friends, and then for you guys to be gracious enough to give out the first 5K at our event. Was, I mean, I don't know if the words grateful or thankful but all the above. Let's say all the above. I want to.
I was going to, on top of that, agree that attitude was what connected us, I think, spiritually, because that's the same attitude that we had starting your day off
no doubt.
podcast.
Tony and I, when we started this, we were like, God, wouldn't it be great if we were in a situation to like Oprah somebody or to to be able to do something? And it's just really cool that this happened at the event that we did with Presley. And again, just grateful and thankful for all that. And thank you for giving us or the attendees, our Oprah moment, I guess. And hopefully, hopefully we can do a lot more Oprah moments in the future. Jerry, just real quick, I just want to go through the rules of applying for the grant. So you have to be a Schedulicity user, correct?
Yeah. You have to be a Schedulicity business. So that means that you could sign up for Schedulicity today and be eligible for one. But yes, you have to be a Schedulicity one of our.
Now, are you watching videos just on Instagram, or can they post it to Facebook as well? I mean, how is your team finding these?
I think mostly it's Instagram, but I think you can post it on Facebook as well.
Okay, so if you're listening to this, I would probably do it on Instagram. We know that's being watched. Do it on both. Do Facebook and Instagram, and that way you're covering all your bases.
Yeah, and we've gotten so many of them in there. The great part is we've been able already to change 2 or 3 people's lives, and that's going to really amplify starting this month. Because imagine it's 3 people every month that are going to win this.
That's
and so it's great. You can see some of the videos, and I can tell you the hardest thing is how to pick one because they're so amazing. All of the people that are talking to us are really amazing, and obviously they all tell about what Schedulicity had done for their business, because that's kind of the idea. Tell us what Schedulicity means to you. What's the difference? How did Schedulicity help your business? And then if you were to get this grant, what would you do with it, right? And just some really moving things that we've heard. I just gave a Schedulicity $5,000 grant away this weekend at the Hair Love Retreat, and the woman who won is her name is Kylie Borchers, and she was just amazing. Had no idea. She sent a video in, and same kind of reaction as you saw when I was with you guys.
It's so emotional to watch.
Yeah, you're changing lives, even outside of the grant. I mean. At our show, I know someone who reached out to you and said you changed their lives, her life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and
just the impact that the Schedulicity team is having on people is like, I don't know. It's just been crazy from our view. I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, what they've done with us and what they've done for the people that support us too, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's just been it's been a beautiful and moving experience, just to get, the byproduct of all the things that have happened are I've gotten to meet people like you, people like Joshua Coombs, who I met this week, who, are just doing amazing things for people out there. And I truly believe that there's a movement going on that you guys were a part of creating, which is, bringing together like-minded people in this powerful community and giving people a voice And as I told people this weekend, it's these people, right, that are going to be able to make change in this industry, that people want, by the things that are happening right now. And you guys are pioneers in making that happen, giving people a voice, giving people a safe place to listen to their other people in their businesses, people that are their heroes, sometimes people that they've never heard of, but who they empathize with because they all have the same challenges, right? The same, difficulties that they've had to go through, and to be able to be a part of that as a company is really powerful, and we're really blessed to be a part of it.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
So quick background, we were blessed to go, to be a part of the Presley Poe and Friends event that you guys put on in that beautiful historic theater in downtown Frederick, Maryland, which was such a cool little place. And anyway, so before the show, there was the bar outside and everybody was hanging out, and I met this this girl who was a hairstylist, blonde girl from New Hampshire, and she introduced herself, and it turns out that she had written a rap trying to qualify to win the award to Shadow Presley.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite entries, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
And everybody loved it so much, you guys picked her to actually do the rap on stage. So I knew none of this. I just was talking to this to this girl at the bar, and she told me the story, and I said, well, let me buy you a glass of wine, because she said, she said, my legs are shaking and I'm nervous and this and that and the other thing. And I said, well, listen, you're going to kill it. And I bought her a glass of wine, and I talked to her, and she was just such a special person. She just had a beautiful soul and smile. And I'd never met her, and this was before she got up on stage and all that stuff. But anyway, I hadn't heard anything from her and hadn't thought that much about it, but I got an email last night, and it said, and I opened it, and it was from her, and it said, "Hey Jerry, ! This is Hannah Woodward. I met you at the Presley Poe and Friends hair show. I was the blonde who did that rap. I'm bummed I didn't get to see you before you left, but I just wanted to thank you so much for the pep talk and glass of wine before the show, because it genuinely helped me and gave me confidence to get on that stage. That night was life-changing for me. I love what you're doing for all of us artists, and I can't wait to see you again, whether it be in Bozeman or a hair show somewhere. By the way, I switched over to Schedulicity, and it's phenomenal. I wish I did it sooner. Hope your kids are doing fabulous, and I hope you and Michael are having fun all over the country doing awesome events. Just saw that you were at the Hair Love Retreat. So cool. Keep an eye out for me in the Schedulicity Cares movement. Big things are happening in this small New Hampshire town. Happy spring, and thank you again, Jerry. Love and kisses, Hannah."
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, on that note,
Mr. Jerry Nettuno, thank you very, very much for joining us on your day off.
Pleased to meet you.
Hey, so there it is. Hey, this is a message that we've been trying to bring, I don't know, for the last couple of months, actually since we started the podcast. Hey, so if you like the podcast or if you find that it's useful, please leave us a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. Leave us a rating and a review.
But if you don't like it, forget about it.
Yeah, totally forget about this message. We also want to thank Sarah and Blaine from Pretty Gritty. Sarah and Blaine, they are a band out of Portland, Oregon, and we just want to thank them very much for allowing us to use their song, Pleased to Meet You, on our podcast. That's cool. I think you can find their music on iTunes.
Peace and hair grease.